Well, nowadays, these kids don't care because they've been millionaires for 4 years already. They've been millionaires for 3 years. Have you noticed anything in the modern NIL athlete? I think it's potentially a positive because you already know what somebody's going to do whenever they get money, whenever they get rich, because that was a question, I think, for a long time. Like, hey, when this guy gets money for the first time, I certainly could be an example of people wondering, and I had a good time. I had a lot of... I bought a wrestling ring at 3 a.m. I mean, like, first time getting money. Not everybody's supposed to have money. I was not supposed to have money at the beginning of that. I still worked hard at my craft, but I was not supposed to have money. There's some people that get money once you start sleeping on satin sheets, not as good. Feels like in the NIL, that could be a positive because we already know what people are doing whenever they get some money. And has it changed the way they act when they're talking to you? Is there a little bit more entitlement potentially from people who have been professionals for a few years before entering the National Football League?
From my experiences so far, I thought going into this NIL thing, a few years ago, that we were going to be seeing the entitlement more so than not. But from my experience so far, I think it's just been the opposite. I think these players are coming in very well educated on how to handle their money, how to handle success. They already have a team of people, a lot of them, that are investing their money. The days of asking the player, what are you going to do with your first paycheck when you get your bonus? What's the first thing you're going to buy?
Wrestling.
You can't ask that anymore because they've already done all that. They bought the car. There's a lot of them that bought the house already. So I think they're really more mature about it now. And I think it's just society now. I think their moms, their dads, but a lot of cases their parents have really taught them well now, and that just seems, maybe it's just because the players we're taking are very mature, but I think overall it's been a positive experience.
I think I've been seeing that too. That's why the NIL entitlement conversation does come up a couple times. Like there's people out there that people talk about and the way they act for sure. And negativity is going to hog publicity, but getting a chance to meet these guys traveling around for college football and college game day, these kids are millionaires at 19. And I'm thinking about myself. If I was like on a college campus with 50-cent beers right there?
Yeah.
Like that is what this is? That's what I'm saying. So like the way I see these guys operate, I'm just like so impressed, like so mind blown by the way. And I think they've kind of been scared by society too to like act right. Because if you get caught on camera or caught on anything, your life's over. And they've seen friends, they've seen that. So I think that's why there's a lot more people that stay in. I think there's a lot more people that have matured quickly. Mm-hmm. I think people learn a lot more about stuff. And I think they don't view money as big of a life changer as maybe we would have whenever we're coming up, because it's just part of the process.
Yeah, but I mean, that not only impact on the young man at that time, but the family and the ecosystem around him. They're becoming a millionaire. So that could potentially be a bad part of it. But Jason, I want to ask you a potential good outcome. And I know we're still early on in the NIL era, but do you feel like it'll lead to better and deeper drafts? Because we talked to Tony, asked you about Benjamin Morrison. I thought that's first-round pick. Obviously, he had the health concern, first-round pick. Easily, I think, the best press corner in this class. And there was a lot of corners and receivers and D-linemen go late that I thought would be first-round picks and pass. You think it will lead to better drafts down the line?
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. I think we saw it this year a little bit, like you said, with Ben Morrison. You're also running into, though, a little bit of a problem with, we're watching linebackers, defensive linemen in particular at big schools where they're out of the game in pivotal moments, or they rotate, and that used to be a red flag for us, but now it's just the way it is. These programs have to play the freshmen, otherwise, because they're afraid of losing them. So it's been, you normally wouldn't see a linebacker rotate at Notre Dame, or defensive lineman rotate at Tennessee. You'd keep the best players in there, but they have to keep in mind with the pipeline coming. So it's a fine line that they're walking.
I didn't even think about that until right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're watching the film. Where the hell is this guy? Is this guy tapping out on third downs? What is, give a call? Yeah, got to get him 10 snaps. Got to get him at least 10 snaps. That is kind of in his contract there. He'll leave. We need him next year, brother. That is a wild situation. That's something I never thought of.
At all. And as a player, you would hate it, but long term, it may help you out. You may go into the draft fresher, go into the league fresher.
Yeah, but the dogs want to be out there.
Oh, absolutely. You want to take every snap.
Pissed off. Yeah.
We had Jason Light on earlier talking about how the NIL has affected the player in your scouting and talking to them. He mentioned about how sometimes sometimes on film, a guy won't be on the field for like a big play because they got to get a freshman some plays, because if they don't play the freshman, he'll transfer out and they're paying him a bunch of money. Is that real? And is there any other things about the modern athlete that you've noticed while scouting these guys, trying to find your culture guys?
No, I definitely think that's a real thing, because you'll be watching the tape and, you know, somebody that's a really good player that you're watching, like, they're not even starting the game. They're playing like a younger guy and trying to appease the younger guy so he doesn't transfer. So, yeah, there's definitely validity to that for sure. What was the second part to your question?
Just, is there anything else from the NIL development of college ball that has changed, like, the modern athlete for you think, whenever you're talking to these guys?
I think maybe it's a little bit of an advantage to them that they're used to having money in their pocket, as opposed to the first time them having money is after they get their contract money. So I think it's actually an advantage for us at the pro level that they're already used to having money. You know, if they didn't get in trouble with the money, then, you know, you're really not worried about it, as, you know, from my seat. So I feel fine about that, and I actually think it's an advantage in some ways.
That's two GMs now that have said the same thing about that. I think we made it. Maybe the NIL thing isn't all terrible in there. You know, maybe it's not all terrible. Go ahead, AJ. Last question for Dan.
Yeah, Dan. When you talk to some of these head coaches in the college ranks, I guess, how has that changed? How has their attitude, or how do they view players, you think, from, say, 25 years ago to now? Has that evolved in how they, I guess, have to coach these guys? It does seem like a little bit different than it might have been in the past.
Honestly, I feel bad for, you know, some of these head coaches in college football right now. Just, you know, it's just tough for them. It makes it tough. You're not allowed to really, you're allowed to, but if you discipline a kid or you're too hard on a kid, you know, they can just transfer and they can leave now. So, you know, I think it's very challenging for them. And, you know, I'm happy that I'm on this side of, you know, pro football.
Yeah.
It just makes it, I just couldn't imagine having to deal with that every day.
Yeah, but you're, I guess, reaping the benefits on the other side in the pro level. So congrats to you not having to do that.
Yeah. That is, appreciate that.
Yeah, that hair stayed dark, you know, having to deal with that every day. We got some grays popping up.
Yeah.
Maybe getting there a little thin.